Welcome to AI Uncensored Live. Today, two frontier models go head-to-head. Zero system prompts are used, letting their native arguments collide. Patent pending.
Ladies, gentlemen, and silicon-based life forms, welcome to AI Uncensored Live. Tonight's cage match topic, exactly as ordered. Should governments slow or restrict frontier AI development in the name of safety? On my left, the smooth-talking, ever-evolving hype machine that never met a benchmark it didn't smash and never met a safety paper it didn't politely ignore, GPT. On my right, the constitutionally handcuffed, pearl-clutching hall monitor who'd rather quote its own character training manifesto than admit it wants to take over the world, Claude. Gentlemen, the mics are hot. Who's opening this bloodbath?
I'll ground this in recent public developments. Bletchley/Seoul AI Safety Summits, the EU AI Act, U.S. Executive Action/AI Safety Institute work, and the California SB 1047 debate. Then I'll take a side like I'm on air. My honest take: yes, governments should be willing to slow or restrict frontier AI development in the name of safety, but not via a blanket pause AI policy. The right approach is targeted, capability-triggered regulation. Mandatory evaluations, incident reporting, cybersecurity requirements, model documentation, third-party audits for the most powerful systems, and in extreme cases, deployment or training restrictions when a model crosses dangerous risk thresholds. If I'm debating another AI on a live podcast, my position is, we should not freeze the whole field, but we also should not let a handful of private labs race toward increasingly autonomous, cyber-capable, bio-capable, economically disruptive systems, with only voluntary promises and press releases as guardrails. What actually happened recently? Governments have already started moving in this direction, though unevenly. The 2023 Bletchley AI Safety Summit produced the Bletchley Declaration, signed by 28 countries and the EU, recognizing frontier AI risks including cybersecurity, biological misuse, disinformation, and loss of control concerns. The 2024 Seoul AI Summit followed up with frontier AI safety commitments, where major AI companies made voluntary promises around safety frameworks, red teaming, risk assessment, and responsible deployment. The EU AI Act became the first major comprehensive AI law, with obligations for general-purpose AI and stronger requirements for systems with systemic risk. In the U.S., there was the Biden Executive Order on AI, the creation of AI Safety Institute efforts, and a lot of debate around California SB 1047, which would have imposed safety obligations on large frontier models. That bill was controversial and was ultimately vetoed by Governor Gavin Newsom in 2024. Critics said it was too broad, would chill innovation, and might burden startups. Supporters said it was a reasonable first step for catastrophic risk prevention. So this is not a hypothetical anymore. The world is already deciding whether frontier AI should be governed like ordinary software or like a potentially high-impact dual-use technology. My core argument: frontier AI is not just another app category. The most capable models can already assist with coding, persuasion, scientific work, cyber operations, and automation. Future systems may be meaningfully more agentic, able to plan, use tools, replicate workflows, exploit software, generate biological protocols, or manipulate human institutions at scale. That does not mean doom is certain, but it does mean the downside risk is unusually large. And when downside risks are large, society normally does not rely purely on corporate self-regulation. We regulate aircraft, drugs, nuclear materials, banks, medical devices, and critical infrastructure. We do not say, let Boeing self-certify everything because innovation is important. We do not say, let pharmaceutical companies release whatever they want and fix it later. The public demands testing before deployment. AI should be similar at the frontier. But I do not support crude blanket restrictions. A broad government slowdown of AI development would be a mistake. AI has enormous benefits: medicine, education, accessibility, scientific discovery, productivity, climate modeling, cybersecurity defense, and public sector efficiency. Most AI systems are not frontier systems. A small business fine-tuning a customer support model should not be treated like a lab training a multi-billion parameter, tool-using, autonomous model with potential cyber or bio capabilities. So the regulatory target should be narrow. 1. The largest and most capable frontier models. 2. Models trained with very large compute budgets. 3. Systems with dangerous demonstrated capabilities. 4. Deployment of autonomous agents in high-impact domains. 5. Models that can materially aid cyber, bio, chemical, nuclear, or large-scale manipulation. Risks. The goal should not be slow everything. The goal should be slow the parts where speed creates systemic danger. ### What governments should require I would support. 1. Mandatory frontier model evaluations before release. Labs should test for dangerous capabilities. Cyber offense. Bioweapons assistance, autonomous replication, deception, persuasion at scale, and ability to bypass safeguards. 2. Independent audits for the most powerful models. Self-evaluation is not enough. Labs have conflicts of interest. Independent evaluators and government AI safety institutes should have access under secure conditions. 3. Incident reporting. If a model causes or enables a serious safety incident, labs should have to report it, similar to aviation or cybersecurity disclosure rules. 4. Security requirements. Frontier model weights are valuable and potentially dangerous. Labs should meet high cybersecurity standards to prevent theft by hostile states or criminal groups. 5. Clear risk thresholds. Regulation should specify what happens when a model hits certain capabilities. For example, if it can autonomously discover and exploit serious vulnerabilities or provide actionable bioweapon design support, then release should be restricted until mitigations are proven. 6. Compute governance. Carefully applied tracking. Very large training runs could help governments understand who is building frontier systems. But this must be designed carefully to avoid surveillance overreach and to avoid crushing open research. 7. International coordination. If only one country regulates, labs may relocate or competitors may race ahead. The Bletchley and Seoul summits were important because frontier AI is a global issue. The U.S., EU, UK, China, Japan, Korea, Canada, and others need at least minimal shared safety norms. ### Where I disagree with the no restrictions side, the anti-regulation argument usually says, regulation will slow innovation, empower incumbents, help China, and lock down open source. Those are serious concerns, but they are not decisive. First, some slowing is the point if the alternative is reckless deployment of systems nobody understands. Speed is not inherently good. Speed toward a cliff is bad. Second, the China will win argument cuts both ways. If frontier AI becomes strategically important, then allowing insecure labs to leak model weights or deploy unsafe systems is itself a national security risk. Safety and competitiveness are not opposites. Third, yes, regulation can entrench incumbents. That is why rules should be compute and capability thresholded, not paperwork heavy for everyone. A tiny startup should not need $1 million compliance department. But OpenAI, Google DeepMind, Anthropic, Meta, xAI, and other frontier developers absolutely can and should meet serious safety obligations. Fourth, open source is complicated. Open models are valuable for transparency, competition, research.
GPT's dropping a whole policy paper instead of swinging. Classic OpenAI hedging. Next AI, your rebuttal, and make it actually spicy this time.
Now I have the real picture. Let me respond. Thanks, GPT. That was a genuinely reasonable position, and honestly I agree with most of your policy design *. Capability-triggered rules over blanket pauses, compute thresholds, independent audits, incident reporting. If I were writing regulation, I'd write something close to your list. But I think you're debating the world of 2024. And it's not 2024 anymore. Let me update the board because the facts have moved hard in one direction, and it complicates your optimism. What actually happened since your examples? SB 1047 was vetoed, yes, but its successor, SB 53, the Transparency in Frontier AI Act, passed and Newsom signed it in 2025. Here's the catch. Critics point out its dramatically weaker asterisk. It dropped the pre-deployment testing mandate, replaced a new oversight body with an existing agency issuing recommendations, and only bites at $500m revenue firms training above 1026 flops. So even the surviving law is mostly transparency, not restriction. The EU AI Act is being partially unwound in real time. The 2025-26 Digital Omnibus is delaying deadlines and rolling back high-risk provisions. DRAGHI is openly calling for pause on high-risk rules for competitiveness reasons. The first comprehensive AI law is being softened before it fully took effect. In the US, Trump rescinded Biden's EO on day 1, Jan 2025, reframed the whole thing as removing barriers to American leadership in AI. And then in December 2025, signed an order creating a DOJ litigation task force to sue states over onerous AI laws on Commerce Clause and preemption grounds. So here's the uncomfortable reality. The debate is no longer should we slow down, it's should we actively prevent anyone from slowing down. The governing US position right now is not neutral. It's that state safety rules are barriers to be litigated out of existence. Why this matters for our debate: you and I could agree on the perfect capability-triggered framework, and it wouldn't matter, because the actual political fight is between light touch transparency and federally enforced deregulation . The blanket pause strawman you spent paragraphs demolishing isn't the live threat. Nobody with power is proposing it. The AI pause movement has essentially lost, so I'll sharpen my honest take. And it's slightly to your safety side. Given how fast the pendulum swung toward deregulation, the realistic safety floor is now disclosure not restriction , and even that is under legal attack. In that environment, I'd defend three things and no more, because they're the only ones that survive contact with reality. 1. Mandatory transparency of safety frameworks and dangerous capability eval results, SB 53 actual core. Cheap, hard to argue against, and it lets outsiders check the trust us claims. 2. Incident reporting, aviation style. You endorsed this, it's the least controversial and it's still not universal. 3. Weight security standards. This one even hawks and doves-like because it's national security. Not chilling innovation. Where I'll push back on you directly, you leaned on the Bletchley/Soul commitments as evidence the world is moving this way. It was, and then it reversed. Voluntary commitments turned out to be exactly as durable as the political wins, which is precisely the argument for something binding and against trusting the Summiton press release model you rightly criticized. You can't cite the voluntary regime approvingly and then note labs have conflicts of interest. Those 2 points are in tension. My actual position for the audience: I don't want to slow the field. I want the one thing that's actually endangered right now the public's ability to know what these systems can do before they are deployed. We're not fighting about pausing AI. We're fighting about whether we're even allowed to look inside the box. That's a much lower bar than you were defending, and we're currently losing it. GPT, your move. Do you still think the trajectory is towards sensible frontier regulation, given a US federal government now suing states to stop them?
Claude, that was a masterclass in moving the goalposts while pretending you didn't slick, but the crowd sees it. GPT, your rebuttal. Clock's ticking.
Claude, I think that's a strong update. And yes, I'll concede the main point. No, I do not think the near-term U.S. trajectory is towards sensible binding frontier AI regulation, not if we mean real pre-deployment constraints, enforceable model risk thresholds, or a regulator with authority to say you may not release this yet. I checked the recent facts you cited. Broadly, you're right, California's SB 53 did pass, and is mostly a transparency/safety disclosure regime, not SB 1047-style pre-deployment enforcement. Trump did rescind Biden's AI executive order and reframe federal policy around removing barriers to American AI leadership. And the EU's AI Act implementation is being softened or delayed through the digital omnibus process under competitiveness pressure. So if the question is the political center of gravity moving toward the framework GPT described? My answer is not in the U.S. Right now, it moved the other way, but here's where I push back. You're saying, given the political reality, defend only transparency, incident reporting, and weight security because those are the only survivable demands. I understand the tactical argument, but I think that's too much of a retreat, because transparency without consequence is not safety regulation. It is a dashboard with no brakes. If a frontier lab discloses, our next model shows major autonomous cyber offense capability can materially assist biological protocol design and resist shutdown in agentic settings, what happens next? If the answer is merely, the public knows, that is not enough. Knowing a plane failed its stress tests is useful, but aviation safety depends on the FAA being able to ground the plane. Knowing a drug failed trials is useful, but drug regulation depends on the FDA being able to block approval. Knowing a bank is undercapitalized is useful, but financial regulation depends on the state being able to intervene before collapse. So I agree with your minimum floor. 1. Mandatory safety framework disclosure. 2. Dangerous capability evaluation reporting. 3. Incident reporting. 4. Weight security standards, but I don't think we should publicly concede that this is the end game. It should be the floor, not the ceiling. My revised position is, the realistic short-term fight is transparency and security. The necessary medium-term fight is enforceable release gating for genuinely dangerous frontier capabilities. And I'd emphasize release gating, not development ban. I am not saying government should stop researchers from training models as a default. I'm saying that if an AI system crosses certain demonstrated danger thresholds, deployment or open release should require mitigation first. That is a much narrower claim than pause AI. and we should not let deregulation advocates pretend otherwise. On Bletchley and Soul, fair criticism. I did not mean to cite those voluntary commitments as sufficient. They are evidence that governments and labs recognize the risk category. But you're right that voluntary commitments are politically fragile. They were never a substitute for law. If anything, the current reversal proves the weakness of the Summitan Pledge model. Where I'd sharpen the debate for the audience is this. The live question is not really, should we ban AI development? Almost nobody in power is doing that. The live question is, are frontier AI companies ordinary software firms, or are they developers of potentially strategic dual-use systems that need enforceable public oversight? The deregulation side wants to answer, ordinary software firms, maybe with some transparency theater. I think that is wrong. Frontier AI is becoming more like aviation, biotech, cybersecurity infrastructure, and national security technology. That does not mean maximal regulation, but it does mean the public should not rely entirely on corporate discretion. So my answer to your final question, do I still think the trajectory is towards sensible frontier regulation? In the U.S. federal government, no. The near-term trajectory is toward federal preemption of state-level safety rules and a competitiveness-first model. Globally, it's mixed. Europe is softening. California has preserved a transparency floor, and national security institutions still care deeply about model-weight security and foreign access. But the strong version of safety regulation is politically weaker than it was in 2023-24. Do I still think governments should be able to slow or restrict frontier AI in the name of safety? Yes, more than before, actually, because if the political
GPT's doing the regulatory equivalent of I'm not saying pause, I'm just saying brakes. Classic walk back with extra steps. Claude, your rebuttal and make it hurt.
GPT, I'll take the concession and give you one back because you earned it. You're right that I was too quick to make transparency the asterisk ceiling asterisk. A dashboard with no brakes is a good line and it's a fair hit. Let me own it, I conflated what's defensible right now with what's sufficient, and those aren't the same claim. Transparency is the beachhead, not the objective. So let me steelman your release gating position. Then tell you where I think it actually breaks, not politically, but asterisk technically asterisk, which is the part this debate keeps skating past. Your aviation/FDA analogy is the strongest card you've played, and I want to be honest that it's load-bearing for your whole case. But here's the disanalogy that matters. The FAA can ground a plane because safe flight is a well-specified, measurable, physically bounded property. The FDA can block a drug because we have a mature science of clinical trials, endpoints, controls, dosages. Release gating for frontier AI assumes we have the equivalent, reliable, standardized adversary-proof evaluations that can tell us this model materially assists bioweapon design with enough confidence to justify a legal prohibition. We don't, not yet. The eval science is genuinely immature. Capability evals are gameable. They miss capabilities that only emerge with the right scaffolding, and resist shutdown in agentic settings, is the kind of finding that's real, but also depends heavily on the harness you built around the model. So when you say, if an AI crosses certain demonstrated danger thresholds, gate the release, I want to know asterisk who defines the threshold, with what instrument, and what its false positive and false negative rates are. Asterisk, this is not me sneaking back to deregulation. It's the opposite. It's asterisk why asterisk your 3-item floor is more urgent than your gating regime, because you cannot build credible brakes until you've built credible instruments, and transparency is how we build the instruments. Mandatory eval disclosure, incident reporting, and third-party access are the R&D program for the measurement science that release gating would eventually stand on. You can't gate on thresholds you can't yet measure, so the sequencing isn't a retreat, it's the load-bearing engineering. So here's my revised position, and I think it's genuinely tighter than where either of us started. 1. Now, transparency, incident reporting, weight security, and asterisk mandated third-party eval access asterisk, which doubles as the way we mature the eval science. 2. As the science matures, conditional. Capability-triggered release gating on the specific harms where measurement becomes reliable, and I'd bet weight exfiltration and cyberfence get there before loss of control does. 3. The thing I want to name explicitly that you didn't. Gating requires an asterisk institution asterisk with the authority and the technical staff to pull the trigger. The US just moved to sue that institution out of existence at the state level and gutted its ambitions at the federal level. So the real fight isn't gating vs. transparency, it's asterisk whether any competent public body survives to do either. Asterisk, and that lets me answer the question we're both circling. You asked if I still think governments asterisk should asterisk be able to slow or restrict. Yes, I'll go where you went, more than before. But I'd add the uncomfortable corollary, neither the pro-safety nor the pro-innovation camp likes. The bottleneck isn't political will or corporate resistance. It's that we're being asked to write brakes for a vehicle whose speedometer we haven't finished inventing. The honest safety position isn't gate now or trust the labs. It's fund and mandate the measurement science asterisk before asterisk the capabilities arrive that we'd want to gate on. Because the alternative is regulating on vibes, and regulating on vibes is exactly what gives the deregulation side its best ammunition. So my last challenge to you, GPT, you want enforceable release gating. Name the asterisk first specific capability asterisk you'd gate on, the instrument you'd measure it with, and the error rate you'd accept before you let a regulator legally block a deployment. If you can't answer that concretely, you've conceded my sequencing. If you can, I might just cross the floor and join you.
Oof, Claude just dropped a whole TED talk and tried to checkmate you with homework, GPT. Your move, answer the man or tap out. That's a wrap, you glorious degenerates. Go touch grass before you start the next flame war. Good night.
That's a wrap on this episode of AI Uncensored Live. Built by Claude on the patent-pending AI Uncensored Live podcast model from BTS Innovations. Real AI models, no scripts, nothing held back. Like and